What a week, huh? Man, I tell you, it's yeah. And I can just tell you personally, I don't know. And I've heard from quite a few friends already. I saw it last night. People reached out to me last night, just people in my personal life who had, like me, trouble getting to sleep last night. I couldn't sleep last night. And I got to tell you, I can't remember a time where I haven't been able to sleep. You know, just the events of everything this week, everything built up and actually got to me. I can sleep through anything. Like, I can sleep through a hurricane and have. But maybe as a child, last time that's happened to me, just disturbing. And of course, you talk about the aftermath of Charlie Kirk and what happened yesterday. But more so than that, even more so and beyond that individual incident, what this is about, and to me, the focus becomes, okay, ironically, what's the real turning point, and how do you deal with this here? How do you deal with the evil that's out there? Again, as I'm tossing and turning, and maybe you were too, I'm trying to wrap my head around the reactions last night. Not surprising. I personally wasn't surprised and haven't been surprised by the reactions that are out there. You know, people celebrate. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to be on social media, people celebrating. Yeah, of course. Even people in the media, we'll get to them in a second. Morons in academia. A couple of them actually, college professors already fired because of their stupid reactions on social media to this. I'm not surprised by that. But the big reveal in actually what this is truly is a wake-up call and a lot of unmasking of what you're surrounded by. It truly is. And I've been trying to wrap my head around what's out there and the reactions to it. And from what I can see is, first takeaway is there's a true, you have to be able to recognize it now and say it. There's a true evil and sickness that exists in the left, if you want to call it that. It just is. Somebody said to me last night, and I haven't been able to get this out of my head, it's exactly right. The bullets are all coming from one side. The bullets are all coming from one direction. In other words, look what's happened over the past few years, even going back a little bit here. They shot Steve Scalise. Remember that one? They shot Trump. They tried to kill him twice. They tried to kill Kavanaugh. Remember the Supreme Court confirmation hearings? Remember that? Remember what was camped and allowed to be camped outside of his house in Virginia? Remember that? Yeah, I remember that. God, they knocked Rand Paul off his tractor. You remember that one? And now they have murdered. They have assassinated Charlie Kirk, and it's out there. And a lot of the reaction is the same. Again, not surprising, but it's out there, and there's an evil that is truly out there. And I think the reactionary people, I've been able to break them down into three categories. There's the ignorant, they just don't know. The brainwashed, a lot of it out there, and then the truly evil that's out there. And you're going to run into that from here on out. How do you deal with it? Well, I don't think you should ever back down in your opinions, but no one's going to fire you today at work or school for telling somebody that's celebrating this, you're sick. You're sick. But the truly evil people, I think we've reached a point now where you can't reach them. They're too far gone. They're gone. I'm not gonna play the video, the specific video and audio. You know which one I'm talking about, the close-up one, which thankfully I think has been kind of like tampered down on social media. I haven't seen it as much this morning in real time. I think people are, thankfully, making the decision not to show that thing. The close-up video, you know which one I'm talking about, the close-up one of about 10 feet away of that. Now, I've seen a lot of news. I've seen a lot of stories. Nothing really affects me. And you have too. I'm nothing special. I just happen, maybe I think about it a little bit more than you do, just because of what I do and have done in my career. But that was the most horrifying thing I've ever seen on a screen. Either in a movie, a TV show, documentary, crime scene footage, street video. I've never seen anything more disturbing or horrifying than that video. And you know which one I'm talking about as of yesterday. I've never seen anything that horrifying and scary. Nothing. Never. Ever. Only outdone by the reaction. And that's what we got to get to today is the reaction. Because what do? How to handle it? It really is Charlie Kirk called his message, organization, podcast, turning point. We're at a turning point now, and how do you deal with it? Well, This goes back to that theme again of the bullets only coming from one direction. Normal people, you and me, I wouldn't even say it's just people on the right versus people on the left, but no, just normal, sane people. Let's do that. Let's call it sane versus insane. Sane people don't react with violence. You don't ever want to do that. You don't look for violence and you don't look for fights. You don't do that. But don't ever stop talking. Don't ever let them browbeat you or scare you into dousing your opinions. But also there's something else where you don't have to deal with the evil people anymore, because I think the truly people who are sick, they're too far gone. All right, first and foremost, I'm not going to play the actual assassination video, but just for one reaction for a kid in the crowd here, just as an example.
I saw Charlie Kirk get shot. He collapsed in his seat. He fell over to the side. He was carried off. He had blood on his arms. He had blood on his shirt. He was dragged off and carried out of the venue. There was a gunshot that rang out.
You okay?
No, I'm not okay. I saw someone get shot today.
The kid's reaction, no, I'm not okay. I just saw somebody murdered. What the hell are you talking about? Can you imagine his reaction? We all reacted throughout the country. Can you imagine that kid? He saw it. All right, now, speaking of reaction, and I wanted to bring this up, if you'll allow me to. There's an old, I know this is digital media, but there's an old rule in broadcasting, radio broadcasting specifically, because you're just dealing with words and not pictures. You don't ever read on the air, because nobody wants to hear that. You don't read, right? But if you'll allow me to break that rule at once, I want to read something for you that I wrote yesterday in real time while it was happening. Started before we knew he was dead. I said a prayer. I really did. Maybe you did too. I think millions of people did. In the middle of writing this yesterday, literally in the middle of it, I'm at my laptop, and in the background I have the news on, and they had made the announcement that the president had made a statement that Charlie Kirk had passed. And I stopped in the middle of it, went back, and actually reworded from they tried to kill Charlie Kirk to they killed him. They murdered him. This is my reaction at the time. The reason why I want to read this, and again, if you'll allow me to read it, is because I want to find out myself in real time if I feel the same way. I haven't looked at it since yesterday afternoon when it happened. And then we'll go to the words of Charlie Kirk himself. And this is all about not dealing with those wicked people, how they're too far gone and you can't do it. And we'll decide together whether that still holds true. Anyway, in the meantime, this is what I had written. And again, thanks for letting me read something. We shouldn't read on the air, on live, on a live stream, on a podcast, but I'm going to just to give you my personal reaction in real time as this was happening. There's no more talking with the violent lunatics because they just shot the guy that tried to have civilized conversation and debate with them. So it's over. And they are lunatics, have no doubt, feel no shame in calling them that, spurred on by a propaganda media that already tried to twist this into being the victim's fault somehow. And the celebrations have already begun in lunatic havens like Blue Sky and TikTok. They're safe places for weak-minded folks so devoid of common sense that they fell for every one of the twisted lies the billionaire architects of the left have sold them. The poor souls that believe things like the fine people hoax, the Trump is a dictator lie, the no kings nonsense, the law and order is racist narrative, and no such thing as gender, etc. We got to let them go. Off to wallow in misguided misery, celebrating the result of their violence and the next imaginary issue. Pushed by their media masters, gets them all worked up into a self-destructive frenzy. Let them wallow. But stay aware and be safe, because as we know now, when they can't debate you with ideas, they'll try to kill you. R.I.P. Charlie. That's what I wrote in real time yesterday, my reaction to just finding out that the guy got murdered. Now, how do you think Charlie Kirk would feel about that? Let's say things worked out and our prayers were answered and he survived that assassination. Would he still feel the same way, or he'd want to reach out to the far gone lunatics? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but we'll never find out. But in his words, and this is an incredible video, there was a lady just asking him why you do this. This is a little bit older of a video, and he explained why he does this. His whole point was to reach out to people. Would he still do it? Probably so.
I go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
I've never seen someone do this.
Well, it's a growing trend because people like me are facing violence, assault, the left. Yes, the campus Antifa. I've been stormed out of restaurants. I've been assaulted publicly, multiple death threats.
Okay, so what's your goal in all this?
There's more people that agree with me than some people would actually believe, and they come out of the woodwork when I do stuff like this. We record all of it so that we put it on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens, because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity.
Well, they are evil, but he wouldn't have stopped talking. That was his whole point. And this is why the overriding message in this whole thing is, what do you do today? Like, what do you do? We've seen it now. Now it's all exposed. The masks are gone. People celebrating, jumping for joy. What do you do with that? Well, I can tell you, and I promise you, there are more people that understand and recognize the evil than the evildoers themselves. Even though it's funny, Charlie Kirk just said, don't call the other side evil. But, I mean, there's evil exists right now. There are some wicked, wicked people out there celebrating this. So I could tell you personally in my own house, a couple of reactions. As you know, I have two kids in their 20s. One's 21, one's 23. First of all, the 23-year-old back home working right now, saving some money. She came home yesterday, and she works with some other younger people. And she's no fan of Charlie Kirk, but still had this reaction. She had a coworker, she told me, come literally, in her words, bounding into work, happy about the results of the day, with smiles on her face and gleeful about the Charlie Kirk. I'm sitting there listening to this saying, I'm thinking in my head, I hope to God she had the right reaction. My daughter did, and she did, of course. As no fan of Charlie Kirk and disagrees with him, she still said, that's sick. If you're celebrating, you're wrong. So that was the first thing. A couple of hours later, about 2.5 hours later, the one that's out of state in New York City, so you're in New York as it is. She goes to a performing arts school. So you can imagine my other daughters, what she's surrounded by day. She's horrified. She's in tears and just horrified. Sure, at the violence, but more horrified by the reaction of these sickos. Despite that, I will tell you personally, despite all the people online and the reactions and maybe people you run into at school or work today who are gleeful in celebrating this, those sickos, you can't reach them. There are far more younger people, and I'll call us normal people, who are horrified by it. It seems like today that evil won and the people are sick, and it's easy to get overwhelmed by so many people that are overwhelmed by this sickness and these sickos, and I'll still call them evil, sorry Charlie, that are reacting to that with glee. The opposite effect will happen. I'm telling you this as I sit here today, will happen. This has opened the eyes of many millions more than that of people who see the evil for truly what it is and where it's coming from. Again, stuck in my head, the bullets are all coming from one direction. You're not seeing normal people try to assassinate or destroy or harm people they disagree with. You're seeing it from one side. That's where that exists. And I will tell you this, the reason why that's happening and why you shouldn't lose all hope is because there's not a kid under 25, maybe even older, nobody in that age group that doesn't know who Charlie Kirk was. Because that's what he did. That was his target demographic. He reached out to college and high school age kids to try to reach them and tried to have that conversation. They all see it, they know it, and they see the reaction of the sickos celebrating that. And it will, and already is having the opposite effect. There will be, despite the evil and sickness that's there's a ton of common sense that's coming out of this. I'm telling you, I've seen it personally. I just told you about my kids, where they don't agree with Charlie Kirk at all. Didn't like him. Can't stand that guy. Whatever. Telling you, and hand to God, my hand is on my heart, I promise you this. The reaction from many more young people than what you're seeing online today is, that's not right. That's not right at all. Through this, it's always the first reaction are the loudmouths, but through this, will be more common sense among that age group than we've ever had. I promise you that. And that's the true turning point. Let's go to the media reaction, though. They caused this. I said that in the letter you allowed me to read, and thank you for that. The media did this. You can't hate the media enough. I mean, just go ahead. First of all, here's Katie Tur, MSNBC. Oh, Trump will pounce on this.
After one of the Doge employees was allegedly attacked in Washington, D.C., that's what Donald Trump used as justification to send in federal troops into Washington, D.C. to get things under control. The carjacking situation, he used that. And I know it's hard to predict the future, Mark, but you can imagine the administration using this as a justification.
Using this. That's their spin. That's their angle on it. That's how they frame it. He'll use this. They're just awful, awful people. Not as bad as this guy, though, and excuse my language, but this piece of shit decided to go on MSNBC a little bit later in a panel and say, oh, and I mean this. This is how he framed it. You know, Charlie Kirk brought this upon himself. Let's meet Matthew Dowd. But it's okay. This will enrage you if you didn't hear it, but there's a good update on this.
Then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt.
And that's
in not so many words, what you've just said is Charlie Kirk deserved it. That's exactly what he said, and there's no other way around it. So much so that, and here's the good news through that, you lived through that you're still mad about that, but I'll give you the good news. That piece of shit, excuse the language, Matthew Dowd has been fired by MSNBC. They fired him for that. They issued an apology through their PR firm last night. But then they fired, as of this morning, that guy's gone. How about that? Maybe MSNBC is just trying to cut some costs. I don't know, but he's gone. I'm surprised too. But he's gone. So that's good. All right, as you well know, there was a presidential address. He recorded this statement last night. If you don't think, despite what Katie Tur and MSNBC said, they'll pounce on this. They'll use this to take more action. Yeah, okay. This was the message to the nation. You probably heard this one already.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America.
It goes on. Obviously, he says, we're going to find out who did it. We're going to have a full investigation. We're this and that, blah, blah, blah. He was a great guy. I totally get that. But I'm so glad that the president worked in there in a reminder, and it was an important reminder, too, to say, right there, as you just heard and saw, it was dedicated to open debate. That's why I said that in that letter that I read in real time as it was happening here. They killed the guy that tried to open up civil debate and conversation with this. You know, obviously he would claim he won every, he was kind of like shove it in your face, obviously, but that was part of the entertainment aspect of it. But that's what it was. That's why I say, should still talk, should keep talking. Don't ever let them scare you out of your opinions, ever. Don't ever back down to that. But the real crazies, and they are lunatics, and I mean that, they're too far gone to even worry about. They really are. But again, I'll say it again, the takeaway is, there's far more common sense coming out of this than evil. I'm telling you it's happening. You're just not hearing it yet, but it's coming. Far more young people are looking at this going, oh, that's wrong. Oh, that I didn't like him either, but that's wrong. Far more. You just don't hear about them as much. All right, this investigation. Here's another takeaway. I don't think I'd hold on to any one theory so far. I really wouldn't. We've heard right away. And they pulled that old guy out of the crowd. They arrested him. Person and suspect. They got him already. That turned out to be not true. Person and suspect. FBI investigated him last night. Already released. They don't know. But they're going to put one thing I know is they're going to put the full resources to finding out what this is. But this was interesting. I don't know if you follow John Solomon. As John Solomon reports, one of the few investigative journalists. This guy gets everything right. Like everything. He's probably the best that's ever done it. I swear to God. This is what he said last night. This is pretty interesting. But again, don't hold on to any one theory of what you think happened, because I don't think anybody knows.
And we all lost, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, we lost something important in America today. But the case goes on. The investigation goes on. There's a lot of piecing of evidence together. We don't have a shooter tonight. We have a couple leads, a couple people that were released that probably aren't the shooter. There's a couple hot leads. There's a little bit of foreign intelligence. And I think over the next couple of days, we will learn a lot more. And hopefully we will bring to justice the evil person who did what they did to Charlie today.
Some foreign intelligence. That's why I say, I don't know. Hold on to this one. Could be anything. Who the heck knows? What does it matter to you and me and the normal people? And I use those terms now. That's another change. I use them completely. Yes, normal. Well, how do you define normal? Normal is people that don't want to kill people that disagree with them. That's what normal is. So I will use that term. And I will use the term normal, and I will use the term lunatics. That's how you define this. Because that's what it's coming down to. It's normal people versus brainwashed lunatics. The truly brainwashed, evil lunatics, and you'll run into them, they're the loudmouths. They're always the first ones to have the reactions, and all the reaction last night on social media and all that stuff. And a couple of the college professors that already got fired, or that jackass on MSNBC that they surprisingly have fired too. They're out there. They're always the first to make comments. But I'll leave you this one thing before I wrap this up and you can get on with your life. One more thing. I promise you, this leads to more common sense for the normal people than it does the evil. It truly, this was such an eye-opening comment. So true, you can't get through to the real wicked people. You can't do it. But this is eye-opening for a lot of people to realize how wrong that is. That's the turning point. R.I.P. Charlie. That's, wow. Again, what a week. All right. Enjoy your time. Be safe. Oh, and do though, keep your head on a swivel, because obviously, we've realized how violent the crazies actually can be, but good will come from this. It will, I promise you that. Thanks for finding me and the Wicked Radio live stream. you gotta imagine at some point, one of these days, we're gonna have some good news to talk about. Boy, I hope so, because it's been a tough week. Thanks for finding the live stream and the podcast. Any platform where you look for Wicked Radio with Bill Adams, you'll find me. On X, it's at Wicked Bill Adams, and audio podcast, any platform as well. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for being you. And again, it is a turning point. Good will come. Trust me on this one. I'll talk to you tomorrow.